his heart failing, his life's work incomplete. Behind him lay a workshop full of clocks that could measure time but never control it. Ahead lay the void. That's when he made the choice that would echo through eternity. He would cheat death itself by becoming time. The surgery was precise, out with the dying heart and with perfect clockwork. Now Heinrich could stop time, but he was no longer sure he was still alive. But this story doesn't begin on that dark night. This story begins years earlier when Heinrich was younger, more hopeful, and his heart still belonged to flesh and blood. 1847. In one of Prague's old quarters, Heinrich Zimmermann's clockmaker workshop was among the city's most renowned places. Heinrich, only 35 years old, had unlocked the secrets of timepieces and was among the rare masters who could repair even the most complex mechanisms like child's toys. In the early morning hours before the first customers knocked on his door, Heinrich would work alone in his workshop, magnifying glass in hand, small tweezers, precision screws, the same ritual every morning. He would lose himself among the tick-tock sounds of clocks as if dancing with time itself. That morning was no different. Heinrich was examining an antique pocket watch on his table when the doorbell chimed. The woman who entered would change Heinrich's life forever. "Guten Morgen," said the woman, her voice melodic but sorrowful. "My name is Clara. Can you repair this watch?" The watch Clara extended was unlike anything Heinrich had ever seen. It appeared to be a normal pocket watch, but something was different. The watch wasn't working, but the moment Heinrich held it in his hand, he felt a strange energy. "This watch, where did it come from?" asked Heinrich, examining the watch carefully. Clara averted her eyes. "It was left by my father. He was also a clockmaker, but he didn't make normal watches." "What do you mean?" "Father tried to play with time. He said this watch was special. He claimed it had control over time." Heinrich's heart quickened. Throughout his life, he had made and repaired watches, but there was always the same limitation. Watches could only measure time. They couldn't control it. "This is nonsense," said Heinrich, but his voice wasn't convincing. "Time cannot be controlled." Clara gave a sad smile. "Father used to say the same thing until one day he got the watch working." "What happened?" "Time stopped. Only Father could move. The rest of the world was frozen, but Clara's voice trembled. This power slowly killed my father. Each time he used it, it took a piece of him." Heinrich prepared to return the watch to Clara, but the woman raised her hand. "No, please. You might be the only person who can make this watch work again. Before Father died, he said, find the greatest clockmaker. You are that person." From that night forward, Heinrich's life changed. The watch Clara had left sat in his desk drawer, but it never left Heinrich's mind. Controlling time, was it possible? For days he examined the watch. The mechanism was complex, a marvel of engineering far beyond normal watches. But it wasn't working. Perhaps that was for the best. But Heinrich was a curious man, and curiosity was the key to danger. A week later, in the late hours of the night, Heinrich finally began to unravel the watch's secret. Inside weren't normal gears. These were made from a crystal-like substance and emitted very faint vibrations. This isn't possible," he muttered to himself. But under his fingers, the watch seemed to be coming alive. When he installed the last screw, everything changed. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The watch had begun to chime. But it wasn't just chiming. The sounds of other clocks in the workshop began to slow down. The wall clock's pendulum swung as if through honey dot as Heinrich's heart pounded wildly. He tried to move the watch's hour and minute hands, and the world stopped, literally stopped. The snowflakes visible through the window hung suspended in air. Cat in the street froze in mid-step. Even Heinrich's breath had become visible in the air, a cloud of vapor that wasn't moving. Only Heinrich was moving. "Mean God," he whispered, "this is real." He turned the watch's dial once more, and the world returned to normal. The snowflakes continued falling. The cat continued on its way. In Heinrich's hands lay a device that could control time. For the first few weeks, Heinrich used the watch only for small tests, stopping a few seconds, extending a minute each time. He was fascinated but also exhausted. Clara's father had been right. This power demanded a price from its user. But Heinrich was young and strong, and he imagined what he could do with this power. His first serious use was to prevent a tragic accident. That afternoon, Heinrich was watching the street from his workshop window when he saw a little girl running into the street. At that exact moment, a fast-approaching horse carriage was turning the corner. Without thinking, Heinrich pulled out the watch and stopped time. The world froze again. The little girl was suspended mid-run, the horse carriage with one wheel having turned the corner, the other not yet turned. Heinrich ran outside, picked up the little girl, and moved her to safety. Then he also called to the carriage driver. Of course, the man couldn't hear Heinrich. But Heinrich knew what he needed to do when he returned time to normal. When he restarted time, the little girl was safely to one side, and the driver had also slowed down at Heinrich's signal. The accident was prevented. But when Heinrich returned home that night, the face he saw in the mirror frightened him. A tuft of white had appeared in his hair, and in his eyes was a tired expression. This power was truly taking something from him. 2 months later, Clara returned to his workshop. But this time she was different. There was worry on the woman's face. "You got the watch working, didn't you?" she said as soon as she entered. Heinrich bowed his head. "Yes. How many times have you used it?" "Only a few times, to save people." Clara approached and examined Heinrich's face carefully. "Your hair and your eyes, it's begun." "What's begun?" "The transformation. Father started the same way. First, the hair whitens, then you begin to merge with time." Heinrich was frightened but also curious. "What do you mean? The clocks only measure time, Heinrich." "But that watch is different. That watch slowly transforms its user into time. Eventually, you're no longer human, but a living time mechanism. But I can stop using the watch." Clara shook her head. "No, Father thought the same thing. But once you've tasted it, once you've felt what it's like to be master of time, you can't quit. Because living in normal time now seems slow to you, boring." Hearing these words, Heinrich suppressed his panic. It was true. In recent days, normal life had seemed slow to him. People's conversations too long, their movements too sluggish. "We must destroy the watch," said Clara. "No." Heinrich's reaction surprised even him. "I mean, not yet. I can do so much good with this power." Sadness appeared in Clara's eyes. Father said the same thing. The following months were a period of heroism for Heinrich. Using the watch, he prevented countless accidents, saved people from fires, caught criminals. In Prague, people began to say there was a mysterious guardian angel. But after each use, Heinrich changed a little more. His hair turned completely white, his eyes took on a metallic gleam, and his heart began beating slower. Worst of all, he was having trouble connecting with people. Humans living in their time seemed too slow, too limited to him. That autumn day, while Heinrich was working in his workshop, he made his great discovery. When he took the watch from his desk drawer, this time he felt something different. The watch had synchronized with him. He no longer needed to press the watch's button to use it. He simply willed it and time stopped. "Mean God," he whispered, "what am I becoming?" When he looked in the mirror, what he saw horrified him. A faint tick-tock sound was coming from his chest. His heart's rhythm had changed. Clara was right. He was transforming into time. By winter, Heinrich had almost completely changed. He no longer needed to eat or sleep. His body worked like a machine, and his relationship with time was completely different. He could no longer just stop it. He could slow it down, speed it up, even reverse it. But the price was terrible. He could no longer talk to people. They seemed so slow to him that completing a sentence seemed to take hours. Customers no longer came to his workshop because when they looked at Heinrich, they couldn't find anything human in him. His eyes moved like clock hands. Mechanical sounds came from his body. Clara came for the last time that winter. "Heinrich," she said. But minutes passed before Heinrich heard and responded. Speaking in Clara's time was very difficult for Heinrich now. "Clara," Heinrich's voice had a metallic ring. "It's very difficult now. I know. Father was like this in his final days too. Heinrich, I need to tell you something." "What?" "The watch has a sibling, but that watch does only one thing. It stops time forever, and its user completely transforms into time." Heinrich's mechanical heart quickened. "Whereas that watch, no, Heinrich. That watch is very dangerous. The person who uses it traps themselves forever in a timeless space between death and life." But Heinrich was no longer hearing Clara's warnings. He was thinking of only one thing, completely controlling time. After Clara left, Heinrich began researching old books, archives, secret records of clockmaker guilds. He examined them all, and he found it. Master clockmaker Johann Eisenhut, who lived in the 18th century, had made a watch that could completely control time. But the watch was so powerful that the moment Johann used it, he disappeared. People searched for him but couldn't find him. Heinrich found Johann's notes. In those notes, he learned the terrible truth. Johann hadn't disappeared. He had stepped outside of time. He had become a being living in stopped time, but completely imprisoned, alone with no connection to the real world. For normal people, this would be a curse, but for Heinrich, this seemed like perfection, because he could no longer share the same world with normal people anyway. They were too slow, too limited. Heinrich's time was different. From Johann's notes, he learned how to make that watch, but something was missing, the heart of the watch. For the watch to work, a heart completely synchronized with time was needed, not a human heart, a mechanical heart. That night, Heinrich made the biggest decision of his life. Winter of 1848, Heinrich had completed his final preparations. Using Johann's notes, he had made the perfect time control watch, but to use it, he needed to replace his own heart with a mechanical one. The surgery was, of course, impossible. No doctor would agree to do such a thing, but Heinrich was no longer living by normal people's rules. He stopped time and operated on himself. It was gruesome work, but Heinrich no longer felt much pain. His body was already half machine. Removing the heart was the most difficult part. Heinrich stopped and started time, performing the surgery in stages, each time a little more, until he removed his old heart and placed the perfect gear mechanism in its place. When the new heart started, Heinrich completely changed. He was no longer human. He was a living clock mechanism. And the watch in his hand now completely obeyed him. From the first beat of his new heart, Heinrich became a different being. He could no longer just stop time. He could completely control it. He could go to the past. He could see the future. He could travel between the layers of time. His first discoveries were fascinating. He relived his childhood, saw his future. He visited moments lost in history. But soon he understood the terrible truth. He was now outside of time. He no longer had any connection with people. Seconds for them could be hours for Heinrich. Talking to them was impossible. And worst of all, he was no longer mortal. His mechanical heart would keep him alive forever, but this wasn't life. This was eternal loneliness. Heinrich walked alone through every layer of time, past, present, future, but always alone. One day, or perhaps 100 years later, time now flowed differently for Heinrich. Clara visited again, but now she was an old woman with white hair. Heinrich, however, hadn't aged at all. His mechanical heart kept him at the same age. Heinrich, Clara's voice was sorrowful. I finally found you. Heinrich slowed time so he could talk to Clara. Clara, you aged. Yes, because I'm still human. You, however. Clara listened to the tick-tock sound coming from Heinrich's chest. You're now a clock. Am I sorry? I don't know. This power is incredible. But you're alone. Heinrich bowed his head. Yes, very alone. Heinrich, I'm going to tell you something. My father reached this point too. Mechanical heart, infinite power. But do you know what he did in the end? No, he destroyed the watch and himself. Heinrich was surprised. How? The mechanical heart gives infinite power, but it also keeps you outside of time. But if you return your heart to its normal rhythm, you return to time, and to compensate for all the lost time you've lived, you age rapidly. As Heinrich absorbed these words, Clara continued, when father did this, he lived the centuries he had experienced in just a few minutes, and he died. But before dying, he said this, finally, I'm free. After Clara's visit, Heinrich thought long and hard. Time offered him limitless opportunities, but he couldn't share these opportunities with anyone. He could go to the past and relive beloved moments, but these moments were now empty and meaningless, because the emotions he had experienced in those moments were now very distant. He could see the future but couldn't change it, because every change only made him more lonely. Heinrich stood in the center of his workshop, listening to the tick-tock sounds of hundreds of clocks and the mechanical rhythm of his own heart. They all beat in the same rhythm, but none of them was real. That's when he understood he had made the perfect watch but wasn't living the perfect life. Controlling time had made him master of time, but also prisoner of time. He made his final decision. Heinrich prepared for the most difficult operation he had ever performed, removing his His old heart no longer existed. He had thrown it away years ago. The only solution was to do something else, create a new heart, but this time not mechanical. Using everything he had learned from all his experiences with time, create a perfect human heart. He worked for days, or perhaps centuries. Every gear, every screw, every part had to be perfect. But this time the mechanism's purpose wasn't time control, but returning to humanity. When the new heart was ready, Heinrich stopped time one last time and operated on himself. As he removed the mechanical heart, he felt his connection to time breaking. The power was flowing away from him. When he installed his new heart, the world changed suddenly. The weight of lost years crashed down on him. His body began aging rapidly. His hair whitened, his face wrinkled, his hands began to tremble. But for the first time in years, he felt something real. Pain. And pain was proof that he was alive. Epilogue. The final, or Heinrich's final days were the most peaceful days of his life. He could no longer control time, but he was living within time. He could talk to people, he could taste food, he could feel the warmth of the sun. When Clara visited him for the last time, Heinrich was an old but peaceful man. "Are you sorry?" Clara asked. Heinrich smiled. "No, those years taught me much, but the most important thing I learned is this: time isn't something to be controlled. It's something to be lived. And now I have time, limited but real, and that's enough for me." Heinrich died in his sleep that night. But before dying, he heard all the clocks in his workshop stop at the same moment, as if time itself was giving him a final salute. The next morning, as Clara was cleaning the workshop, she found a note on Heinrich's desk. "Time is the most precious thing because it is limited. Those who try to control it lose it. Those who live it become immortal." Heinrich Zimmermann, the last clockmaker. After reading the note, Clara smiled and went outside. The sun was shining, and it was a perfect day to get lost in the flow of time. Heinrich's workshop remained empty, but the tick-tock sounds of clocks could still be heard, as if Heinrich's spirit was still there, dancing with time, but this time not as master of time, as friend of time. This story was written as a philosophical tale questioning the value of time and the meaning of being human, inspired by the real clockmaker Heinrich Zimmermann.